I'm a nobody from nowhere that ain't never done nothing. That's what I am. An old head. These young coaches, I tell you what, I can't figure these jokers out. They got a backpack on and tight something. I don't know what they're doing. They're getting on my nerves. I can tell you that. I know what ain't in the backpack. A string and a let me paint that line for you. That ain't in there. That's for sure. I had a kid the other day. He said, "Hey, coach, didn't Christopher Columbus write the Pledge of Allegiance?" I said he sure did. He also played quarterback for the 1985 Chicago Bears. He said bet. That happened. Sun Coaches, Season 6, where coaches come and tell their stories. Some of them are funny. Some of them is going to help you in your coaching journey. Not everybody has a funny story, but everybody has a story. Hope you enjoy Sun Coaches, brought to you by Titan Sensor. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sensor for Season 6 and 7. Titan is made in the USA, proudly founded and based in Texas. When you connect with Titan, you are not alone. You can collaborate and share templates with other coaches across the country to build reports and foster competition. Used by programs such as State 6A Georgia State champion Grayson High School, Titan can tailor a package to fit your needs. The eye in the sky never lies. Improve your team's performance with Titan. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 6, and today I'm very excited to be joined by one of the best guys in the game, one of the best people we have leading young people. He's the head coach of the Central Macon Chargers, Coach Jarrett Laws. Thanks for being on with me.
It's a privilege, man. It's an honor.
Well, Coach, just like I ask everybody on everyone, where'd you grow up and where'd you go to high school?
Well, I'm a transplant. I grew up down in Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm a born and raised Floridian, and played ball at I started out playing at Daytona Beach mainland, and then my last 2 years I transferred to Daytona Beach Seabreeze and got a chance to play for a really good legendary coach, a guy by the name of Rocky Yoakum, and he's one of the winningest coaches in the state of Florida. And I learned so much from him as far as like hard work and overcoming obstacles. I was always a smaller football player, but he always put a little more extra energy into me with believing in me playing bigger than myself, and had a good high school career, played multiple sports, and was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to sign to play ball at Division II Wingate up in North Carolina, and went up there and played a little bit of ball, made a whole lot of lifelong friends, and just expanded my love for the game, and everything that kind of came from that, I think, was just the genesis of me wanting to become a coach.
That's awesome. I remember the first time one of the earlier podcasts when I first started this thing had Bobby Scipio on, and he was from Florida, and we laughed about how all you Florida kids, you didn't have no choice but to play other sports.
Oh man, listen, I mean, when I think back to being young, I can't ever think of being a sports specialist. I mean, our summertime, I can think about one of my summers where we had 8 a.m. open gym in basketball. You do that till about noon. Go get you a hamburger from down the street. Then football workouts started that afternoon. And then when they were finished, then if that gym was open, you went back and played some more basketball. And, a couple of us had to make sure a couple of days a week we got in the cage and swung the bat a little bit because baseball coach was on our tail. And I don't know, man, it just, one thing about it, doing all of that made definite sure that we never had time to get into trouble because we were surrounded by too many coaches, too many things to do.
That's right. Best deterrent for teenage nonsense is to stay busy. What the devil? Idle hands is the devil's workshop.
Devil's playground.
So when you went to Wingate, what position did you play in college?
I played slot receiver, which was ironic because when I was in high school, I was an all-state defensive back, but I quickly found out that wasn't nobody trying to recruit no 5'7" DB back in the days. That wasn't happening. So I also played a little bit of offense, and I guess I got enough done on the offensive side of the ball where my college coach gave me an opportunity to come up and play. And, I had a real good time playing up there and, just the real pure version of football before NIL and all this old craziness. We just playing for the love of the game and getting our education, scored a few touchdowns, made some lifelong friends, and just learned so much about the game. My college coach, Doug Malone, we're still close till this day. We talk at least 2 to 3 times when we can a year. And he just had such an influence on me, not just from learning how to play football, but he was a coach that genuinely cared about who we were. And even, at the edge of becoming a man, he still understood there were lessons that we needed to learn. And he wasn't afraid to teach them. And wasn't nothing better than spaghetti over his house on Thursday nights.
That's what I'm talking about. What about when you were in school? Did you always know you were going to teach and coach, or did you get in the wrong line in college and end up doing this?
I think it was the wrong line. I never saw myself really becoming a teacher and a coach. Ironically, now that I look back, in every sport I played, I always at some point won the coach's award. And I'd had coaches tell me that I was more or less either a coach on the field or a coach on the court. And I never saw myself having the patience to deal with coaching because I was a very impatient athlete. I didn't suffer fools because I knew with my size I had to outwork everybody. And when people weren't working around me, I was quick to get irritated about it. And I never saw myself being able to put my life on the line and make sure my bills are paid by a couple of 14, 15, and 16-year-olds.
So what did you get your degree in to start out in?
My first degree I got, it was in education. My last year going into school, I ran into a counselor who was running a program where they had a need in special ed, and they were giving scholarships out. If you were academically inclined and you were doing well, you could write an essay and go before a board and interview for a scholarship. And I was looking, that's a little extra money in the pocket. I wasn't mad at that. And as I got into the program and started going on, our little ventures into the schools and learning, all of a sudden I started to see that there was a need for people with good character and people with good hearts to come in and be the example. And then finally it just kind of clicked in my head. Some of the most important people in my whole life had been my coaches. And I felt I should pay it forward. And that's when the passion started.
Oh, there's nothing better than being somebody's person. And when you work in special education as I do and you have, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. When you're that kid's
Absolutely.
person and they really don't have anybody else advocating for them, whether, the mom and daddy don't know no better, the grandmama don't know no better, they're doing the best they can with them, but they know when they come to that school place every day, they got somebody in their corner that's going, make them put a smile on their face and pull them through it, push them through it. To me, that's more rewarding than anything else.
You better know it, coach. I think back to when I started 1,000,001 years ago, but I think about that little room I had and those kids that were coming in. It just seemed like everything we did with them was a lifelong brick that we were laying in their house. The work was so important. And I worked with small groups when I first started. So I got a chance to have a lot of personal relationships with a lot of kids. And, it got to a point to where I had to start trying to contain myself a little bit because it was getting bigger than just being their teacher. You were concerned about everything that was going on at home. You wanted to go to their house, and there were a lot of there were so many stories of kids that were facing so many crises that they were having to deal with. Our county athletic director in Bibb County, Kevin Grooms, says something that really still jumps out at me today is that, every kid has a book bag when they come to school. It's the invisible book bag. You don't know what they're carrying. And sometimes you may be the only person that can look in their book bag and teach them how to use it in a positive way. And early on, I noticed the importance of that. And it's just always my hope that all of us that are in education continue to remember that these kids and their invisible book bags are the reason that we're here. And what we're doing with them will resonate with them their whole life.
Oh, there ain't no doubt. I mean, just taking kids home. I mean, taking them home and seeing where they live, and then you go, oh, okay, I now understand why this kid acts the way they do, or this kid struggles with structure, or this kid struggles with, whatever, because some of them barely have a roof over their heads, and some of them might as well have been raised by wolves, and, there's the one you want to take home with you.
Exactly.
It's like, come on, baby, you just going to stay with me. Tell your mom and them, I'll bring you back around on the weekends.
No doubt. It is, and so I know so many of us in the coaching community, can sit down and tell some of those stories. I mean, some of the unspoken stories, some of those things where it sends a chill down your spine to even have to bring it up and discuss it. It just puts so much more significance on what we're doing every day because it's like you said, it means so much to be their person. And sometimes you don't even know you're their person. Something has to happen along the line where it becomes obvious that you're their person. But that's a responsibility that none of us should ever take lightly.
I agree. So, what was your first job out of college?
Oh my goodness.
If you
I
remember
got a
that,
job.
you old head
Oh
now.
yeah,
You
we
might have
go
forgot.
way, way, way back in 1999. I was teaching at Tampa Wharton High School, and the coach had already got all of his supplements out, and he had hired all his coaches. So there was a brand new school across town in Tampa called Tampa Sickles, and it was they were in their first year in existence, and you know how that is getting started. Sometimes it's hard to find help. So God bless my wife, man. She was finishing up her degree, and we had just had our son. He was about, good Lord, couldn't have been any older than about 5 or 6 months. So I'm working, and we're operating on one car. So I'm working every day, and then she's having to hustle to pick me up, take me 45 minutes across town to my coaching job. And then she was finishing up and doing some night nursing work. So after that, now she's got to go to work, and we tossing the kids or whatever. But that first job taught me a lot because it was a struggle. It was an over season. But one thing I learned from those kids that I still use today, man, you got to fight to the last whistle. Those guys, I'll never forget it. Our last game, we were playing a school called Tampa Jefferson. Tampa Jefferson was top 10 in the state. And we had those guys, we were down 10-7 going into the fourth quarter. And just one of my proudest moments was that those kids had a hard season, but you're talking about in the fourth quarter and you're 0-9, and those kids believed to the very last second that they were going to get the win. And it just taught me a lot about resilience. And I think it kind of just fed me into the rest of my career, just remembering those beginning days that, anything can happen.
Well, how long did you stay at Sickles before you went to your next stop?
Well, unfortunately, it was only a year because what happened was I was teaching at Tampa Wharton, and I was driving across town to work at Tampa Sickles. And the coach who was at Tampa Wharton, who ended up being the most important coaching mentor I've ever had, was a guy by the name of Richard Batman Wood. A little background on him: he was the first three-time All-American in the 1970s at USC. Played for John McKay, played uh, countless years in the NFL. At one point, was the Tampa Bay Bucks leading tackler. Just an awesome human being. And he kept seeing me leave, and he was like, "Say, man, I see you all the time. Where are you going?" I said, "Well, coach, I didn't want to bother you because I heard, you didn't have any coaching spots. So I'm going across town. I'm working over at Sickles." He was like, "Yeah, well, so at some point we got to talk." And ironically, that year we were playing against Tampa Wharton, and he came across the sideline at the end of the game. He grabbed me by my arm and said, "When the season's over with, that Monday, I need you to come see me." And on that Monday, I walked in, and we went to talking, and we got on the board a little bit, and I guess he felt like I had a little bit of a brain. And next thing I know, I had a job at my school. I ain't got to waste no more gas running across town. And he brought me in, let me coach his quarterbacks and receivers. And God bless him, man. You talk about a mentor. That guy taught me so much football, but outside of football, he would teach me things like when the game was over with, and it'd be like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I can recall him saying, "Come in the locker room with me." And we go, and I see this man who's in the College Hall of Fame, who played in the NFL, who's got countless support. And this man is on his hands and knees, scrubbing that floor, getting gum off the floor, just making sure everything was nice and neat. And he was like, "Hey, man, get that rag, get down here and scrub with me." And we're down there, and those lessons that I was learning from him about, taking care of the little things and being proficient at stuff that is outside of the game in order to make the game better for you. I just carry that with me even to this day. And we talk all the time. He's getting up there in age, but one thing about it, man, I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for him. So I'm so grateful to him.
Yeah, we talked off air earlier about, we came up in a time where young coaches were just tickled to death to have a T-shirt and get to line the field or get to be a here and there coach. Here, take this group over there.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
Be the get back coach on Friday night, young coach.
Absolutely.
Whatever
Absolutely.
they need you to do. And these days, I don't want to hear this mess about it's a microwave society, and I get it, but we don't operate. Our job ain't like everybody else's. There ain't nobody else to do them things. It's just us. It's got to be done, and there's things that the big check has to deal with that we don't want to deal with.
Absolutely.
And he don't need to be fooling up with no, whatever it is, putting ice in, he needs to go talk to so-and-so's mama because she's mad he didn't get to play. I don't want to deal with that.
Exactly.
I'll fill up water buckets and
you take care of those things, man.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff I think sometimes we get away from. And, I would advise a lot of young coaches that are in the game, it's one thing to say, hey coach, I'll take care of the little things, but nothing's better than to have young people on your staff that when you look up and it was on your checklist to get done and it's done. Or like you said, you coming off the practice field and you see them at that gate, making those relationships with those parents and, making sure that kid got that hamburger when he was on his way home and making sure, all the little things that are just idiosyncrasies that run us crazy, that you got those guys without being told, seeing the problem, grabbing the problem by the horns and doing something with it.
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is permission.
You got that right.
Just see, if you see something needs to be done, do it. And if it ain't done right, well, we'll say I'm sorry and I'll do better next time.
Catch it on the back end, but at least somebody's making an effort.
That's right. So how long were you at Wharton before you moved on from quarterback and, running that part of the offense?
So Wharton was an interesting story. So our first year that I was there, we went 2-8, but we had a great young group that just stuck together. And, I'm young with them. So, I'm probably, good Lord, I'm about 25, 26 at the time. So I'm still getting out there playing 7-on-7 with them guys and running around. And, I stayed in an apartment right down the street. Me and my family had a little apartment down the street from the school. So they called me up and, hey, coach, can you come open the gate? Let's go, let's do some work. I jump in the car, ride down there, we get a little work on the field. And, we started just building the dream. And that next year, we went 4-6, but we had lost 6 games by less than 12 points. And we were on the verge of doing something because that next year, that 4-6 season, Coach Wood did something that to this day, I don't even know why he did it, but I'm so grateful. He named me his offensive coordinator. Now, in hindsight 2020, if I was him, I wouldn't have never gave me that job. There was no way I was ready to do that job. But he told me, he was like, it's not your knowledge, it's your heart. I can teach you football, but I can't teach what you got with those kids in that relationship. Something's going to come out of that.
That's right.
And on that staff, we had 5 former NFL players, and some of which were not very happy that he made that little kid in the corner the offensive coordinator. And he took a lot of heat for that. And for years, I've always told him how grateful I am on that. But we made, I guess, a 2.5-year run because we had the 2-8 year and the 4-6 year. And then we had all those kids, 27 seniors. I never forget the number, 27 seniors coming back for their senior year. And I was coaching them in the spring game, and we went and beat the crap out of somebody. And we were looking around like, man, we got one. I think it's going to be huge. And lo and behold, the county athletic director calls and asks me for a meeting down at his office. Now, I'm a little scared. I'm like, oh, my God, have I done something? Oh, man. So I'm sweating. But I went and talked to him, an old guy by the name of Vernon Corn. And he told me, you have an interview at the new school they're building down the street called Tampa Freedom. I've already spoken with the principal. I need you to put on a nice shirt and tie, go in, yes, sir, no, sir, and then see what they've got to say. Now, mind you, everybody dreams of getting that job. But at the time, those kids were like my children. I loved them. But in true fashion, doing as I'm told, I went and spoke to the principal, and lo and behold, they named me their first inaugural head coach. And the ironic part about it is that season, Tampa Wharton goes to play for the state championship in Class 5A versus Naples High School. No, it was Pompano Beach, Ely. And it was crazy because it's like I was doing 2 jobs in one. The guy that was taking over for me, I'd meet with him and sort of give him some ideas on what we were doing. And, we'd go over the game plan. And I'm trying to build my program down the street, but I'm also trying to help them keep going. So I kind of was like his de facto I guess they would call it now when you got those guys that are just consultants. I was kind of like a consultant, but those kids did something, man, and I'll never forget it. At the end of that state championship game, they walked over and they got together and they gave me a state championship, the state finals uh, medal. They were like, Coach, this is as much yours as it is anybody else's. I cried like a baby. It was just a moment to know that those kids were still connected with me, and even to this day, I still talk with some of those kids. They are, now they're grown men, so we're having some different conversations. But
Yeah.
man, that was an experience.
Man, that's awesome. So your first head coaching job, you didn't even apply for it, didn't really want it. They just
Not at all.
said, "You the man."
Oh man, Coach, it was crazy because the school was 10 minutes. We were overcrowded, so they built the school 10 minutes away from us, and now I'm bad as the kids. We clowning the guys that's got to go down there. Oh man, y'all gonna miss a great season. Y'all got to go play at the new school. They're gonna ship y'all to the new school. And I mean, I'm just wearing them out. And not 2 weeks later, I'm their coach. And I'm like, how in the world did this happen? But it was an opportunity, man. I was 26 years old, getting my first head coaching job. And, at that point, I knew something was special. So, I tend to believe that the good Lord places our feet where he intends for them to be. So I followed him and took the job.
So how long were you there?
I did 2 years at Freedom. People, and it. I hope it doesn't sound crass of me to say this, but people have no idea how great the coaching is in Florida for the minimal amount of financial support that they get. I had friends that were in the Atlanta area making literally 4 times as much as what I was making as a head coach. And they were in just position coaches and doing their job. And I had a couple of friends up here that were coaching, one of which is a guy named Billy Stewart. I know you know Billy.
Mm-hmm.
Billy was the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator at Tampa Armwood when I was the offensive coordinator at Tampa Wharton. And Billy was up here coaching for Cecil Flo and was just blowing it up. And I talked with him and a couple other folks. And I have some family up in the Atlanta area, so we came up for Memorial Day to see him. And my wife looked around and saw that house cost that little and that job paid that amount of money. And when we got back to Tampa, she was like, babe, the for sale sign is in the yard. Let's go take our chance. And that coupled with me trying to get some time to finish up my master's degree, we went on ahead and packed the bags and came up to Georgia to see if we could live the dream.
So where did you end up?
So this is a funny story. So I had about 9 interviews scheduled, and I was starting at the bottom of the metro Atlanta area, and I was going to work my way north over the course of 2 days. So I go to Mount Zion Jonesboro, and the principal there, still one of my best friends to this day, a guy named Gary Townsend. He's the county athletic director now for Clayton County Public Schools. I go in, I do the interview, and I'm trying to get done with it quick because I got another interview in another couple hours. I got to get there. And Mr. Townsend walks in, he looks at me and he says, hey man, come talk to me for a minute in my office. I go in the office and he was like, look, cancel the rest of them interviews. You ain't going nowhere. Me and you, we're going to go get something to eat and we're going to figure this out. And I'm like, oh, are you sure? He was like, hey man, shut up and come ride with me. And true to form, I went on ahead and took his advice and he ended up hiring me as the offensive coordinator at Mount Zion Jonesboro in 2005.
That's awesome. I mean, that made that trip a lot easier.
Oh, definitely, man. You sit up and you tell your wife, she's like, you got a job already? Oh my God, we rolling. It makes that trip back home a whole lot easier.
Well, who was your head coach then?
Jackie Green had just retired, and his former offensive coordinator was a guy by the name of Bob Ryan. And Bob was 2 years away from retiring. And the plan was, Mr. Townsend literally was just vocal about it. He was like, Bob's getting ready to get out of here. And I need somebody I can trust because I want to build a winner. And I just get a good feeling about you. So here's what I want to do. Hang with me for a couple of years. And then we're going to see, can we get you the whistle around your neck? And true to form, Bob did his 2 years. And as soon as he walked out the door, he literally, God bless Bob, in the middle of his last year, he basically made me the head coach de facto. And he was like, just let us cruise to the end, man. I'm trying to get to this retirement. I'm at 30 and I'm ready to get it. And he sort of let me run the team the last 4 games. And it was a smooth transition. And that next year, I was the head coach at Mount Zion Jonesboro.
That's awesome. How long were you at Mount Zion?
and this is why I say, people have to believe that the good Lord organizes your steps. So I was at Mount Zion Jonesboro a total of 4 years, basically 2 years as the coordinator and 2 years as a head coach. In 2007, I took over as the head coach, and we had a group that I thought was going to be really, really good. We had a running back, a guy by the name of Martin Ward, that at the time was like one of the top running backs in the state of Georgia. Had got a Coach Rick that gave him a UGA offer, and man, that kid had some wheels. He's still a good friend of mine. He's coaching up in West Virginia now. But that team went 3-7, and I couldn't believe it. I was in the middle of trying to transition the team away. We had been a wing T team, and that was a whole nother adventure coming to Georgia and learning how to run the wing T. But I'm coming from Florida. I'm like, okay, we're gonna get out the wing T. We're gonna do some different things. And in that first year we tried it. The kids just did not convert, and I don't know if I did a very good job of making it clear to them. But that very next year, after all of those seniors graduated, we had one kid that probably could play Division I ball, a linebacker, but it was just a young group on 2008 that didn't have much. And coach, what a year. That year, there was some academic problems in Clayton County Public Schools where there was some accreditation issues, and a lot of the kids were transferring to other districts. And God bless Mr. Townsend. He brought us in and he said, listen, the kids that are going to stay here are going to need all our love and all our support, and we got to rally around them. Don't let these kids get out of here. Give them something special. And we looked up and went on a run as a 4 seed in the playoffs and ended up playing all the way to the Elite Eight and lost by 1 point to Alan Chadwick, the great Alan Chadwick. We lost 34-33 on Thanksgiving weekend. But those kids had made a run, the likes of which nobody had ever expected. And I still love those guys to this day. And ironically, in the middle of that, when we were in the middle of the run, the school district was opening up a new high school, Charles Drew High School in Riverdale. And nobody knew it, but they had named Mr. Townsend the new principal. So here we are in the locker room at Ware County, getting ready to play in the Sweet 16. He takes me in the locker room and he says, listen, I hate to do this to you while you're getting ready to go play, but I got a job and it's right down the street at the new school. Now you can stay here if you want to, but I want to build something that we're going to be proud of our whole life. I want you to come with me. And me, I'm loyal to a fault. So even coaching right then, I already knew that I was following the guy that gave me my opportunity to my next opportunity. And in 2009, I took over as the inaugural coach at Charles Drew High School.
Man, that's awesome. Did Coach Robinson, was he with y'all from Temple?
For a short time, he had gotten something else that came about, but for a brief time, he was with us.
Yeah, because I worked with him at Temple, and I just remember he taught social studies. He made the kids sing the capitals.
Exactly.
And we got together at Tink's recruiting fair year before last, and he was like, "Thank God somebody's here that can corroborate the stories about the crazy kids we had up there." Some of them other kids looked at us like, "Man, y'all didn't have no kid named Ricky Ticky Tavi that caught 2 cobras behind his house with his bare hands." I said, "Yeah, we did." But we had a good time. Oh. So you got to open up Charles Drew. So you open up your second brand new school.
Yeah.
Well, actually third, because you were an assistant at Sickles. So you you'd seen this movie before.
Yeah. So I already knew how rough the road was going to be. And we were starting. We didn't even have a senior class. We opened up with 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. We were playing a non-region schedule, and it was our job to go barnstorming through the state of Georgia and get our brains beat in so we could learn how to put together a proper program. But man, God bless those kids. They stayed, and we worked and we worked and we worked. And by year 3, at one point, we were number 5 in the Max Preps poll for 3A and challenging for the doggone thing. And I mean, we played in a region that 3rd year where that was, oh my God, Sandy Creek, Eastside was very good, and Covington, Stockbridge, and Kevin Whitley were just starting to make their run. Let me see, Henry County was there as well.
With no weak sisters.
No, wasn't nothing. There was no time off. We even had a school from Florida. They had something called the Great American Classic, and we played Jacksonville Episcopal when they had Jack Del Rio's son at quarterback. And that was a heck of a season, man. But man, those kids fought, man, and they had a great little run, ended up going to the playoffs. And Dropped a tough one in the playoffs to a very, very good Eric Parker led Burke County team. But they were pretty tough, man.
So how long were you at Drew before you moved to the next challenge?
So I was at Drew from 2009 to 2013. And I know, when people hear this, it's hard to believe, but when I was at Drew, going into the 2014 season in the spring, me and my defensive coordinator, Dorwin Lyles, went out to get a little lunch, and we were coming back, and somebody gave me a call on my cell phone, and they were like, "Hey, the Griffin principal is here, and he wants to speak to you." And I'm like, "For what? What would he want to talk to me for?" And lo and behold, he had made a trip up to Drew and had asked Mr. Townsend permission to speak with me about the position. And it came off of a really good recommendation from the great Steve Dvorsny. And I'll forever be grateful to him for that, because apparently, they'd asked him, who do you think would be the best fit for this job? And he said, only name I can think of, go get Jarrett Laws. I think he can do it. And it was just such a big opportunity. And I came and I met with the Griffin principal and Mr. Townsend in Mr. Townsend's office. And to this day, I tell people, at that point, I looked at Mr. Townsend and I said, if you don't want me to go, I won't go. And me and that man, we had tears in our eyes and we hugged. And he said, I can't take this from you. This is something you've been working for. I want to go see you shine. So, go take the job. And in the span of about 3 days, I found myself down in Spalding County coaching the Great Griffin Bears.
Bears, the green and gold.
Oh yeah. Like they say, once a bear, always a bear.
So you go down to Griffin, it's big time program, a lot of history, a lot of tradition down there, and you didn't have to go build something of your own. You had to figure out their traditions.
Not at all, man. And that was the thing. A lot of people, I ingratiated myself to a lot of people when I got there, because I told them, I'm just a cog in the wheel. This program has been here forever, and it has been good forever. I just want to learn, how do things work here, and how can I do my best to continue the tradition. I started by having lunch with Coach Devo. We went out to a little restaurant in Griffin, and I sat down and I said, man, I need you to write down everything that you need done. If you were going into this season, what are the things are you looking for? And then please tell me the one thing that you like all your kids to walk away from, with you being their coach. And he was just really appreciative of it. He was like, Jarrett, however you want to do it, man, do it your way. But these are the things that we emphasized when we were there. And he had wrote the kids a beautiful letter, and it was on the board. And when I got there, it was on their board in the locker room. And when I got there, I told somebody, don't erase that. And I took a picture of it and I laminated it for every one of the kids, and I put it in their locker. And I told them, don't you ever forget that man was your coach. I'm here to just continue the work that he's doing, and I'm going to learn from you. But don't ever forget the love that you shared with your coach. And to this day, there's still kids that tell me, man, coach, I still got that letter, and I really appreciated you doing that. And I think that was the one thing that allowed that Griffin football team to accept me, because mind you now, they were coming off just winning the state championship, and it just went 15-0. And they were a tight-knit group. I mean, a group of seniors that were coming back that were just, oh my God, sometimes coaching those kids was like playing Madden. It was just easy work. But because I didn't come in trying to be everybody's boss and rewriting the book, those guys went ahead and accepted me into their family, and we ended up having a undefeated regular season. And I'll always be grateful to those kids for that.
Yeah, it's a great testament to you as a person to be able to shelve your ego and come into that kind of situation, because it's tough. I mean, you're following perfection.
Absolutely.
And it's a whole lot. Everybody wants to go in, put their spin on things, and of course you're going to change things, do things a little differently. But ultimately, paying respects to the people that came before you. There's you can't go wrong that way, especially in the kids' mind, because like you said, a lot of those kids probably took them a little minute before they got to where they trusted you.
Oh, absolutely. I tell a funny story. This is one of those behind the doors funny stories. So we take the kids to McEachern High School to a 7-on-7. And the kids tell me, they say, okay, coach, listen, there's this party going on tonight. We kind of want to go to the party. It's like just our friends getting ready to go to school, and all us getting ready to just throw them a little, I think they called it a kickback or something. So they were like, we're gonna come up here, coach. We're gonna give you maybe two good games, But after them, if you don't mind, man, we want to go back home so we can, get dressed and get ready for the party. Not me being a coach. I'm like, what the world these kids talking about, man? Them go to a party, man. I ain't trying to hit them kids, man. Hey, let's go to work. So we go out and we play the first two games, and I can't even remember who we played, but we just beat the stamps off of whoever it was. And then in the third game, it was like an inferior team. I think it was Alpharetta the year that Josh Dobbs was there, and the kids are just screwing up, and I'm like, what's going on? What's the problem? And I'm looking back, and it's like two or three of them giggling, and I'm just looking. I'm like, are these kids really having a revolt on me? And the athletic director was also one of my assistant coaches. He walked over and he was like, Coach, you might want to call this one before it turned into something. I was like, really? And one side of you wants to draw a hard line and say, I'm the coach and you're going to do what I say. After that game, I actually walked up and I told the coaches over at the McKeachin folks that was running the tournament, I said, I'm going to go ahead and withdraw the guys because we've got a couple of things going on and we got to get back to Griffin on. And I called them in a huddle. I said, listen to me. Everybody gets one. This is your one. But you owe me. If I give you this, I expect something in return. And to a man, those guys, I think that was the moment they bought in. I jumped them on the bus. We drove back home. And after that, I think we were just thick as thieves. They just kind of saw that I cared for real about them as people, not just as football players. And that's when we started to become family.
Well, and that's what really matters. I mean, we've got to win these kids over and let them know that, we want to win football games, but there's a bigger picture out there, developing young men and preparing them because they're not all, hardly any of them are going to get to go play at the next level.
Yeah.
And but they're going to be a man for the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
So how long, where did you go after Griffin?
So I did 2 years at Griffin, and that second year there was an administrative change, and I think it was one of those things where the guy that was coming in just wanted his guy, and for me, I always like having my toes where I'm appreciated. I was told about a long time ago by my grandmother, go where you were celebrated, not where you were tolerated. And I had a friend of mine that was coaching in Rockdale County at Salem High School. And he put me in touch with the principal, and I gave her a call. She said, come on in and let's have a conversation. And it just ended up being a really good fit. So after those 2 years, I packed my bags and headed up to Rockdale County and spent a good little time up there coaching those Salem Seminoles.
And that's where you started grooming your own coaching tree. I know Michael Johnson was with you, MJ, when you finally had to kick him out the nest. Had him on the program, and he said you called him in and told him, all right, baby, it's time for you to go spread your wings and fly.
Had to, man. He just was so sharp, and he like we talk about those young guys that can complete your sentences and do things the way you want to do them. And I just looked at him and told him, I said, man, you're a head coach walking. You need to start applying for some jobs. And he was like, no, coach, I need to do this. We need to stay together. We got this, that, and the third. I'm like, hey, man, listen to me. Somebody did it for me. Now it's my time to do it for you.
That's right.
Go seek out your dreams, man. Let's go get it. And I'm so proud of him and the work that he's doing, man. We talk all the time, and it's almost like he's one of my football sons, man. I just see him go off and do great things.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. We came off the field Friday, and one of the coaches from Turner County looked at me and goes, man, you look real familiar. I said, I ought to. And I told him, my hair is white now, and it wasn't then. and so he yells at the other three coaches, including Coach Barber, who's the head coach. Hey, man, it's Coach Lamb. So when we got done, I tell our OC, he's a younger guy. He's not a young guy. He's kind of middle-aged guy. He's 35. Yeah. And I said, Ship, man, them three coaches over there, I coached them in high school. He said, man, you're getting old, coach. But it's just cool when you see your kids grow up and do great things.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. I mean, we talk about paying the game forward, but if we really value the game and we want it to stay something that's important and keep shaping lives, then we've got to make sure that we're those people that we shape their lives. It makes no sense if they take it and they keep it in a box. We got to make sure that they open that box and share it with the next generation. I tell people all the time, God knows they need it.
And speaking of which, you end up down at Central Macon, and I saw on Twitter the other day one of the most awesome videos I've ever seen where y'all unveiled the new weight room for those kids and just the excitement. All I kept thinking about is they look like little youngins on Christmas morning when they can't figure out what they want to go pick up and play with.
That's right.
That
You
was
know,
awesome.
it's for those kids because we're Central has been a program that has struggled, and we're still in the middle of trying to put some bricks down and get that thing going. But sometimes, especially in today's microwave game, people want everything to happen right now. And one thing people have to understand is things take time. Good things take time. They take foundations. They take a lot of work. And our kids, we're probably numerically the smallest team in our dish in our region. But those kids that show up every day, they may not get a lot of the limelight, but God bless them, man. Every day they show up and they are working and doing hard work. And particularly this group that I've got that's coming up, we one of the things I took them through was a 12-week leadership course that me and our guy JJ Heffley, who's over our FCA, we sat down and we literally created a curriculum, a 12-week curriculum for our kids that was specifically designed to address the things that they need. We had some axioms, some videos, a couple of Bible verses, just some things to really make them think. And in the off season on a Friday, and those guys in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, ain't trying to get out in them streets and look for trouble. They're there doing that leadership work. I looked at them and I was like, man, that is something worth rewarding. And then fortunately, we have such a great sponsorship. There's a guy, former alumnus of Central named Roger Jackson. He he played on the 1975 Central Chargers state championship team. Ended up going to Bethune-Cookman playing and played a little while in the NFL. He's just a really big presence in the community. And he took on the task with a couple of other folks in that booster club, and they said, we're going to do something special for those kids, and not just those football players, but all those kids in that building. And man, for them to get together and design from bottom to top that weight room, which is on par with anything I've ever seen. I mean, it makes your eyes water to see those kids who sometimes they get overlooked, but somebody to put a light on them and say, hey man, you matter. And it's making a difference. I mean, they're bugging me tonight. Coach, are we working out tomorrow? When we gonna get in the weight room? I'm like, give it time. We getting ready to get back in there, man. But it just was an awesome moment just to see their eyes light up and for them to know that, they matter. And sometimes that's all you need.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about Central and what you guys are doing. You've been a head coach at you've been so successful at so many different places, and you've done it for so long being a head coach. I'm sure over time, things have changed. How did you approach your spring this year?
Well, for us, it was a little different. These past couple of years that I've been at Central, it's been a bit of a pull and tug because we got some older guys that, you sit up and you start telling them, hey, we exist in a 90-degree box and what we do sits right here. And if you're outside that box, you're outside of the program. And some of them kind of just didn't want to put their toe in that pool. They kept staying outside of it. So we actually went into this with a young group. The majority of our kids, I tell them our team is upside down because the majority of our team is led by rising 10th and 11th graders, mainly the 10th graders, our freshman class from the previous year. They were a class that we kept together from the middle school, and they got a lot of chemistry and they were pretty successful there. And we just broke the program down and said, listen, let's go ahead and start from the bottom and build it back up. So we redesigned some of the things we were doing scheme wise to try and fit the kids that we have. And we just spent a lot of time on basic fundamentals. I mean, outside of playing a spring scrimmage, we probably didn't really do no more than 10 plays every day, 11 on 11. We just really spent a lot of time on proper tackling, proper blocking, understanding the game, being able to speak the language. Instead of telling me that man over there, tell me he's a 4-eye technique. I'm like, the guy that's back there trying to get the ball. No, that's your too high safety. And we just really decided to build football from the bottom up. But this has been, it's been so fun, fooling around with these young kids and watching them get smarter and better. And, you got them texting you 9 or 10 o'clock at night, asking you the right questions because they're watching film. And, it's like, man, I'm not as young as I used to be, so I might want to get some sleep, fellas. But just working with them has got me so excited about this season because I really think those guys are going to take a monumental step forward.
And how did you approach June and July this year? I know I've asked everybody, and some people went to the 3-day model, and some people still do the 5-day model. I mean, what works for your kids up there?
It's 4 days. We sort of break everything down into quarters. Like our Monday's our first quarter, Tuesday's our second quarter, Wednesday's our third quarter, Thursday was our fourth quarter. And we just had an agenda for every day that we were focusing on. So we literally had the weight room was designed to match up with the install. So if we were doing tough inside run looks that day, just walking through them, then we did a lot of heavy work. And then on the days when we were perimeter, we were doing more joint-based exercises. And we just sort of built it off of that model. And what we tried to do is make sure every eighth Thursday that we were someplace competing, either at a 7-on-7 or at a contact camp or something to try and, sharpen our iron. And we just jot the progress every week. We meet on Sundays and we pull the films up and, we jump in the playbook and we start talking about what's good, what's not. And it's been a very slow approach. But I've been pleased with it because we approached it more of an academic way. Instead of just doing it from a coaching standpoint, we almost treat it like as if we're teachers and we've got a curriculum that we've got to get through. And you know how it is being a fellow teacher. Sometimes you got these curriculums, and if you get to this point and the kids don't get the concept, you got to kind of stay there. And that's been an advantage for us doing it that way because the kids' intellect is shot through the roof. So we're literally talking football with them now, and we're in the last phase of it, getting ready to go into next week. And, I'm kind of, it's a little bit different than what I've done in the past, but I think it fits our kids. So I'm excited to see how it's going to resonate.
Well, what are some things over the years that you've noticed now that you're an old head that have changed about high school football? Not necessarily, huddle and all that stuff, just the game itself, how we coach it, how we teach it, and the young men we've got coming into this profession these days.
Well, I know from a general football standpoint, the perimeter game has become so paramount to football. People are starting to shy away from the box. Everybody kind of wants to find the best way to get the ball on the perimeter and see if they can get it in athletes' hands and things of that nature. Whereas I think about 20, 25 years ago, and it ties into our coaches, you couldn't get a job if you couldn't sit up and tell somebody, what's the name of this front? What technique is that? How does he play it? How do we, when the counter's coming to you, do you squeeze the wrong shoulder? Do you right shoulder? What are you doing? Whereas now the coaching group that's coming in, because the game is evolving, they know everything about secondary play and everything about perimeter play, but they know very little about the box because they've never been concerned with it. Because as well as I do, a lot of these guys, if they ain't running inside zone or duo or something like that, they have no idea. Let's just do that setup pass. Whereas back when we were younger, everything was based around being able to count and being more intellectual about being able to count that box. And I'm not saying it's made the game softer, but I just remember it being more of a physical game when we first got into it. And for me, I think that's something that we need to get back to because the game is cyclical. When everybody's in the box, the smartest guy in the world is learning how to Steve Spurrier pass it. Then when everybody catches up with the passing game, now you look up and everybody's trying to catch up with Jeff Monken running it and everything in between. So it's just moving from being more of a physical game to more of a numbers matchup game. And you have a choice. You either evolve to that or you get a group of kids that you think may fit old school football and you try and feed them that a little bit.
Yeah, I know because you saw them last year, but our heavy set's the power I.
Yeah.
And too tight power I. And I was messing with the offensive lineman the other day, and I said, we can run buck and counter and power out of this. There's other plays other than kick. And they looked at me like I had 4 heads. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I know y'all aren't going to believe this, but there was a day in time when this was the offense. And you ran more than one play. We can run, because they don't know. I mean, that ain't on the game.
No. No.
So they know. And, it's like I've told people before on here, just laughing. The first time I learned how to really, really connect with the kids and teach cover 2 is using Madden and telling that corner, you got the purple zone, baby.
Yeah.
Like they know that.
Yeah.
Curl flat or, I got to push. If 2 pushes vertical, I do this. No. I was watching them play the game. I said, you got purple zone right there. You got that. And they were like, bet. So that's how I teach it now. I just tell them, you got the purple zone, you got the green zone, y'all got the, red zone, whatever, because they play the game. So you might as well use what they know, meet them where they're at.
Oh, absolutely, coach. And then, we're coaching the probably the most media savvy group of children that have ever existed in the world. And because of that, kids want to know why. Whereas maybe 20, 25 years ago, you had that run through the wall mentality because coach, that's my coach. And I'm going to run through a wall for him because that's my coach. Now kids want to understand from a logistics standpoint, why are you asking me to do this? What does this lead to? And how does it benefit not only the team, but in perfect honesty, how does it benefit me? How do I contribute to it? Correct. So that's been one of the greatest changes I've had to go through over the years. Whereas when I was a younger coach, it kind of was like, hey, man, I said block down on that end because I said so. Now it's got to be, hey, well, if you get down on them, it allows us to catch the corner. And then if we can get around the edge, now we got a chance to get down the field. And you got to talk them through it. And you have to be sincere because one thing I found out about children, no matter whether it's 1999 or 2025, kids know sincerity. And if you are not sincere, they'll smell it a mile away.
Yeah, I tell everybody I've ever talked to in an interview that I might not be the best teacher and I might not be the best with adults, but I'm great with kids because I love them. I'm honest. And that's really those two things right there is all they need to know. I care about them and real knows real.
Absolutely, man. People tend to forget. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. I mean, it sounds really cliche, but that is a truth and axiom that I think will live on far beyond the days of us coaching.
And it's funny because the kids will be like, man, sometimes Coach Lamb will say stuff to you, kind of hurts your feelings, man. He just, and then one of the other ones, well, he just tells it like it is.
Well,
and I'm
like, how it is.
You just be honest because they know I'm never going to lie to them. So even when I should, even when it's in my best interest to not tell them the truth, I can't do that. I'm going to tell them because they watch us so much. And once you lose that trust, being honest and sincere with them and, not tearing them down, not slipping on the dreams or whatever, just telling them, hey, man, in order to get here, this is what you're going to have to do.
Definitely.
And I believe that you've done that for so many years. You've poured into kids. You've built young men. Your reputation in the state is one of the best humans we have leading young people precedes you. And man, I just appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and everything you continue to do for the young people in our society.
Well, Coach, one thing about it, and I wanted to make sure I pointed this out. People don't understand that even before this podcast, years and years back, you've always had a great care for our game and not just our kids, but you've always been a resource for us as coaches. And people don't take that on unless it's going to benefit them someplace, either by some popularity contest or by finances or something. But everything you've done has always been from the heart. And it's just my hope that you are not the last of a dying breed. But I have really appreciated over the years, whether it been information or simply a conversation or just a good word, the work that you've done, making networks and putting us as a coaching fraternity together and still spreading it with the kids. That has been a godsend to me a couple of times in my career. So for all it's worth, man, it has been my honor and my privilege to be here today. And just know that you're appreciated. Definitely somewhere in Macon, Georgia, you definitely appreciate it, sir.
Well, thanks, Coach. I sure do appreciate it.
Absolutely.